all started with 16, and now there are 4. 4 drivers, 2 teams, 1 race. Phoenix. Will it be Kyle Larson chasing his 2nd championship? William Byron, who is said to fill the shoes of Jeff Gordon? Chase Briscoe, the underdog of Joe Gibbs Racing? Or Denny Hamlin, who's chasing nothing but a championship? Are you ready? T-Bone is. Let's go racing. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to T-Bone's Transmission here on KWSC-FM. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the time you have all been waiting for. Let's go racing and let's preview the Championship 4 in the NASCAR Cup Series. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been waiting for this all season, and you guys know the time is finally here. It is finally time to break it down. Let's get into it. So you guys know it is a it is a Hendrick Motorsports versus Joe Gibbs Racing. 2 drivers are in Joe Gibbs Racing, and the other 2 are a part of Hendrick Motorsports. Ladies and gentlemen, these are 2 of the strongest teams NASCAR has ever seen in a while. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So, before we get into driver previews and team previews and all that stuff, let's talk a little bit about Phoenix Raceway and the track itself. So, Phoenix Raceway, this Championship 4 race, it is 312 laps and 312 miles. Phoenix Raceway is a 1-mile track in the mountains of Avondale, Arizona, aka Racing in the Desert. And you guys remember, back in March, I did go and cover this as a little fun YouTube vlog that I did. I went to the spring race in Phoenix, Arizona this past year because the spring race usually falls on my spring break. So, and it's also right after my birthday. So I went home, celebrated my birthday with friends and family, and then I attended the race, and boy, was this race a lot of fun to watch. So if you don't remember, my dad had an event to go to that day or something, so we had an extra ticket to the NASCAR Cup Series race, and I thought no better person to bring than my best friend Eli Stargell, who is the biggest Christopher Bell fan you would ever meet. This man loves Joe Gibbs Racing, he loves Christopher Bell, and he just loves NASCAR in general. So I was like, dude, I have an extra ticket, you want to come? And he's like, yes, I want to go. Lo and behold, that would be the race that Christopher Bell won to lock himself into the playoffs in general. Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Bell was your spring winner at Phoenix, and unfortunately, he is not in the Championship 4 this year, but Denny Hamlin, who is finished 2nd right behind him, and Kyle Larson, who's also finished 3rd. So, breaking down the stats from the spring race and previous races that we've had in the spring, these 4 drivers can 110% do it at Phoenix. And it's going to be so hard to try and come up with one driver that's going to finish it all, because these 4 drivers are not going to make it easy on anyone. And we're going to go ahead and get into it right now. But for the driver preview, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of time to kind of preview each driver as an individual driver and not as a team quite yet. So we're going to go ahead and go in order of the playoff standings right now. So we're going to start first with Chase Briscoe. If you don't know Chase Briscoe, he drives the number 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. And this, ladies and gentlemen, you guys heard in that intro, I called him the underdog of Joe Gibbs Racing, and that's because he is. A lot of people were not really expecting Chase Briscoe to do much in the playoffs. If you guys remember my playoff preview when the playoffs first started, I said that Chase Briscoe was going to be eliminated after the round of 16. Boy, oh boy, did I get the biggest slap in the face from Chase Briscoe, because here he is in the Championship 4 competing for a spot to the championship. He's actually not competing for a spot to the championship because he's already in the championship. He's competing for the trophy. And every year there's always one driver that was kind of an underdog, and Chase Briscoe was definitely that driver this season. My, oh my, what a season he has had. So in Phoenix, though, in the spring, he did not have the best race. He crashed early in the race and finished 35th with a do not finish, or a DNF as they call him. So if you hear me say DNF for the rest of the episode, it means do not finish. So, or did not finish. But yeah, Chase Briscoe wrecked into the wall pretty early on in the race. I believe he wrecked, I want to say lap 30-something. I'll have to go back to my YouTube video and see exactly what lap he crashed in. But yeah, he got turned into the wall and his car was pretty wrecked. His tire was crooked, couldn't really fix it. As always, when the tire gets pretty crooked like that, there's really not much you can do to get it to fix. But yeah, he did finished 35th in the pole. But looking at the season as a whole, Chase Briscoe has 3 wins off of 7 poles, 15 top 5 finishes, and 19 top 10 finishes. So my, oh my, did Chase Briscoe just have a season for Joe Gibbs Racing. He was just, I mean, obviously a lot of people were kind of comparing him to Martin Truex Jr. because this was really the first year he took over the 19 car. As you know, you guys know Martin Truex retired last season, who was the driver of the 19 car for a long time. Nobody really knew what to expect out of Chase Briscoe because I remember people always saying like, oh, you know, we just had a great driver like Truex and now we have this guy Chase Briscoe. Like, what is he going to do? Like, he's not really going to do anything. Lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, the 19 car is in the championship for once again, but with a different driver. So he is kind of the underdog of Joe Gibbs Racing because, you know, you obviously have Denny Hamlin, who's been in the sport for forever. And then you, of course, have Christopher Bell, who's also been in the sport for a while. And that 20 car is really freaking fast. And then, of course, you just have the 54 of Ty Gibbs, which I know you guys are wondering. Ty Gibbs, Joe Gibbs, yes, they are related. Ty Gibbs is Joe Gibbs' grandson. So there's a lot of controversy there about Ty Gibbs and having a ride with Joe Gibbs. But we won't get too much into that here because this is about the championship 4. This is not about Ty Gibbs at all. Although I do really like Ty Gibbs, we actually had a really funny interaction in Phoenix in 2022, November of 2022, when he won the Xfinity championship. It was actually really funny. I was just going from garage to garage, just seeing which drivers were there so I could take a picture with them. And I remember hearing all this booing from Garage 4 at Phoenix Raceway. And I was like, who could they possibly be booing at? So me, being the curious girl I am, I went to Garage 4 and saw that it was Ty Gibbs. And I was like, hey man, like, do you want to take a picture or something? Whatever. And then it was funny because there was a group of girls that were kind of following Ty Gibbs around. It wasn't like they were Monster Energy girls or anything like that. Because, you know, they're always following Ty Gibbs over the fact that he is sponsored by Monster Energy. But, they were just these random girls that were there. I don't know who they were. I don't think he knew who they were either. But he kind of looked at me and he's like, can you talk to me for like 10 minutes? And I was like, sure, why not? And then I was just like, yeah, or like, are you okay? Because he like kind of told me it when he was like, he was in trouble. So I was like, are you like, okay? Like, do I need to do anything? And he's like, well, that group of girls behind me, they've been following me around all day. I have no idea who they are. They keep calling my name and stuff like that. I'm just trying to focus on the race. Just act like you know me, have a genuine conversation with me so that they can go away. And I was like, sure, I'll do that. So we were actually talking and stuff like that. We brought up his dad because at the time his dad was not doing very well health-wise. So we talked a little bit about that. Talked a little bit about Joe Gibbs as a whole and just his racing career as a whole. It was a very fun conversation. And then he turned around and the girls were nowhere to be seen. So then he looked at me and was like, thank you so much, and went along with his day. Ty Gibbs, I don't know if you remember me at all from that conversation, but if you do, I'm still here, and I'm still talking about NASCAR as always. I say hi. But anyway, yes, going back to Chase Briscoe, and like the 19 car, like I mentioned, there was just a lot of things about, you know, what is Chase Briscoe going to do? Like, it's kind of like, I want to say it's kind of like the Jeff Gordon, William Byron situation, where everyone wants him to fill the shoes of Martin Truex. And to be completely honest, the first season in the 19 car, he 100% did that. Chase Briscoe was just an incredible driver this season. And like I mentioned, I was someone that really doubted him, especially in the beginning of the playoffs. But look at him now. He's here competing for the trophy. Like, what more could you say about Chase Briscoe? And another stat that I want to point out about Chase Briscoe is all season he led 881 laps. All season, he led 881 laps. That is just remarkable, and especially coming from someone, you know, who didn't really have a lot of faith in Chase Briscoe coming into the playoffs. he was able to just really pull his weight and just really show that, hey, I deserve to be in this 19 car. You understand me? I deserve to be here. And I agree. I mean, Joe Gibbs and the season that 19 car has had, phenomenal. And he 100% deserves to be first in the playoff standing right now. And of course, to get the trophy. He was the first person to lock himself into the playoffs. He won at Las Vegas, and he's in there. He's in there. He's ready to go. Like, I just want to, if I could have a genuine conversation with any driver going into this Championship 4 run in Phoenix this year, it would be Chase Briscoe. And I know that my pick to win it all is Denny Hamlin, but I feel like I can already sense enough of what Denny Hamlin is feeling. Shout out to his podcast, Actions Detrimental. That's where I get a lot of insider information about Chase Briscoe and Denny Hamlin. I just really quickly want to give a shout out to my cousin Mike, who joined the live. Hi, Mike. I miss you. Yes, and of course, a friend of mine from middle school, Nick. If you didn't know, I am now live streaming T-Bone's Transmission on Instagram. So hello, everyone on the Instagram live. But yes, getting back to Chase Briscoe, I just want to sit down with him and be like, how did you do it, man? Like, with all this pressure put on you by fans, and I don't want to say Joe Gibbs put a lot of pressure on him, because Joe Gibbs is a relatively nice guy in the NASCAR world, but, yes, I mean, I just want to sit down with him, and I just want to be with the fan reactions of you going to the 19 car, and now you're sitting here to fight for the championship this weekend. How did you deal with that? How did you do it? Like, it was just... wow. Just, I'm speechless when it comes to Chase Briscoe, because what a tremendous season that man had for the 19 car and of Joe Gibbs Racing. And of course, moving on to the other driver of Joe Gibbs Racing, my pick to win the championship, good old Denny Hamlin, the driver of the number 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. Looking back at some stats from Phoenix, he finished second. He didn't do Christopher Bell good and get first. He got second. And that right there just proves that Denny Hamlin is fast at Phoenix. And he's always been really fast at Phoenix. I mean, even when he was in the Championship 4 a couple years ago, he was still fast in Phoenix. And it was so crazy to see. So Joe Gibbs in general has just had a tremendous playoff run, especially for Denny Hamlin, especially since he wants to fight so hard and get that championship. Like I said in my intro, the only thing Denny Hamlin is chasing right now is that championship. He has everything else. He just hit 60 career wins. He has Daytona 500s under his name. He has All-Star wins under his name. Has many Championship 4 appearances, but the one thing he does not have is the championship trophy. And that is exactly what he's chasing this year. And we've kind of talked about this in some previous episodes, but Denny Hamlin is at that age where he's getting ready to think about retirement from racing. And we talked about this a lot in episode 5 with the whole thing between him and Bubba Wallace. You know, the big question right now is it time for Denny Hamlin to retire and put the full 2311 hat and be just a team owner now? I mean, that could be a possibility. I mean, he hasn't, like I mentioned last week, he hasn't announced anything official yet that he's retiring, but I've talked about this with my dad and so many other friends that are in the NASCAR world. I think that if Denny Hamlin wins the championship this year, retirement is definitely going to be a huge thing on the table. Now, obviously, I don't think he's going to, retire fully. I think he's going to do kind of what Martin Truex is doing right now. He's going to retire, put the full, I'm the team captain or the team owner of 2311. He's going to work really closely with Michael Jordan. And then we might see some appearances of him here and there. Also kind of like what we see with Jimmy Johnson and Legacy Motorsports. He co-owns the team with Richard Petty, and he retired, put the full, I'm the team owner now, but I do want to race a little bit. We've seen Jimmy Johnson come out in the 84 car from time to time, and I feel like Denny Hamlin's going to do the same thing. He might even go down to Xfinity and do what Eric Almirola is doing. I mean, Eric Almirola races every once in a while in Xfinity, and I can see Denny Hamlin doing that too. I could also see Denny Hamlin doing some more things in the trucks too. But like I said, he has not announced an official retirement yet. But me being the crazy NASCAR fan I am, where I literally break down everything piece by piece, I can 100% see a retirement coming from Denny Hamlin if he wins the championship. I don't think he's going to really make a decision now because I feel like he just wants to see it all play out, because if he doesn't win a championship this year, I feel like next season he's going to come back even hungrier than ever. But just seeing where he is right now statistically in the playoffs and seeing that he finished second in Phoenix, Denny Hamlin is a driver that can definitely do it, and I don't doubt that at all in my mind. And looking at season stats here, Denny Hamlin has 6 wins under his belt. He has had 4 poles this season, 14 top 5 finishes, and 21 top 10 finishes. So, like Chase Briscoe, his teammate, he is also a very fast driver and just all around a really fast and hungry driver in general. And he is someone that I feel like, whoa, my voice just got really crazy there. I'm so sorry, you guys. He is someone that I feel like will come out on top this championship weekend. Now let's get into the 2 Hendrick drivers. The first, sitting in third right now in the playoffs, it is Kyle Larson, the driver of the number 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports, who already has 1 championship under his belt. Kyle Larson was the NASCAR Cup Series champion in 2021. He did win it the year that everything was back to normal after COVID. He came, he conquered, he did it. It was great. Kyle Larson finished third at Phoenix in the spring. Again, another fast driver at Phoenix, but, you know, seeing those 2 Joe Gibbs cars that finished in front of him, even though Christopher Bell is not in the playoffs, still seeing that the Joe Gibbs are faster, I'm a little shaky for Kyle Larson here. I mean, he performed really well at Martinsville. He was up in the front at all times, and yeah, I mean, he's just up there. He is also the driver that got himself in on points. Actually, no, Kyle Larson is not sitting third in the playoff run right now. I completely thought he was. He's actually sitting 4th right now because he is that 4th driver that got in on points. So he didn't really win, and obviously he didn't win anything in the round of 8, but he was sitting pretty comfortable points-wise, where I feel like Kyle Larson was kind of like, I don't really think I'm in a need-to-win situation. I'm just in a need to stay at the top so I could get into the championship 4. But just seeing how the 3 other drivers race and are in this playoffs, I'm not really expecting much out of Kyle Larson at Phoenix. I mean, will he be fast? Yes. Do I think he has somewhat of a chance of winning? Yes. Do I think it's big compared to the Joe Gibbs drivers? Absolutely not. Especially seeing the season that Joe Gibbs has had as a whole with all 4 drivers. I really do think that this is the year of Joe Gibbs racing. And even though Kyle Larson did finish 3rd at Phoenix, and there is quite a possibility that something chaotic could happen in Phoenix, because, I mean, it's the championship race, I mean, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Joe Gibbs racers could be fighting in the front, and then next thing you know, they're spun out in the wall, and Kyle Larson's the first to cross. He very much could get his 2nd championship this year. But just seeing how Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe have been racing recently, I think they're going to be putting a lot of pressure on this Larson kid. And, I mean, just looking back at the season, Kyle Larson has 3 wins, 1 pole, 14 top 5 finishes, and 21 top 10 finishes. Actually, I just realized I read his stat for Denny Hamlin. So let's go back to Denny Hamlin's. Denny Hamlin has 6 wins, 4 poles, 14 top 5, and 17 top 10s all season. And Denny Hamlin, going back to Denny Hamlin, I just realized I did not read the stat mark. Denny Hamlin led 816 laps all season, but we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but Hendrick Racing, when it comes to laps led, they are definitely the guys that are on top. Kyle Larson led 1,106 laps this season alone in a career. Not a career. In the season, he's led 1,106 laps. So Kyle Larson is yet another driver that is proving that he's really fast, but I just don't think, I'm going to be so honest, I don't think it's a Hendrick year. I mean, just seeing the 2 Joe Gibbs drivers that are in, it's not going to be easy for this Hendrick team at all. So we're going to go ahead and turn the gears to the other Hendrick driver, who is William Byron, the 24 car, the man who is said to fill the shoes of Jeff Gordon. He is just, I mean, William Byron's just fast. We'll put it out there. That 24 car is fast. But is he fast enough for those Joe Gibbs drivers? I don't really know. I mean, he's fast, but just seeing how competitive Joe Gibbs has been and his cars have been, and just seeing how hungry they are, I think William Byron is in the same situation as Kyle Larson. I mean, those Joe Gibbs drivers are not going to make it easy for him at all. And to be honest, I feel like Hendrick's really in trouble going into this race because Joe Gibbs, those drivers are not going to make it easy. And I'm not talking about just Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe. I'm talking about all four of them. Because, I mean, Christopher Bell won in the spring. Ty Gibbs has been running in the top 10 and even top 5 pretty consistently lately. And, you know, Christopher Bell and Ty Gibbs, their job is to just help Chase Briscoe and help Denny Hamlin out as much as they can. And when they do, they are very competitive about it. So I don't think Joe Gibbs as a whole, I think they're really strong going into Phoenix, and they've just been running really fast, and yeah, it's just crazy for these two Hendrick guys. But looking back on William Byron's season, he finished 6th at Phoenix, so he did finish in the top 10 at Phoenix. Wasn't quite as fast as Kyle Larson and the Joe Gibbs drivers, but he was still up there. He was still consistent. He was still in the top 10. And looking back at his season as a whole, William Byron had 3 wins off of 3 poles. He had 11 top 5 finishes and 16 top 10 finishes. He also led 1,278 laps this entire season. And that was just insane for William Byron, to say the least. And like I mentioned in the intro, he is really the driver to really take over and fill the shoes of Jeff Gordon. I mean, he's racing a very iconic number. If you're not a NASCAR fan, Jeff Gordon and the 24 car, one of the most iconic cars you will ever see in NASCAR. You walk into the Hall of Fame, there's the Rainbow DuPont car right there in front of your face. It's literally right there. I've never been to the NASCAR Hall of Fame by myself. It is a bucket list trip, so hopefully within the next couple years I'll be able to go and experience it for myself. But I have seen many videos of other people taking tours of the shop, and you literally walk in, boom, the big Rainbow 24 car is right there. And Jeff Gordon was also, I would say, one of the most iconic drivers of Hendrick Motorsports. Like when you go to a guy that's not really a fan of NASCAR, but he knows it, you mention Hendrick Motorsports, the first person they're going to think of is Jeff Gordon. So William Byron's really the guy where everyone's like, he needs to fill the shoes of Jeff Gordon. And one way he could do that is by winning a championship. But William Byron is also someone who has made championship 4 appearances in the past, but when he didn't really perform that well. I believe the last time he was in the championship 4, he finished 4th out of all 4 drivers. So it's just been kind of a hit or miss situation with William Byron. And I was actually scrolling on social media before I came up here. I actually took a screenshot of this in the elevator while I was heading up here to the 4th floor. This is a graphic that NASCAR posted earlier, literally like a couple minutes ago. So probably about an hour ago now. It's called the Clash of the Titans, Hendrick versus Joe Gibbs Racing. When you look at this, you look at who won the pole. Hendrick Motorsports has 6 poles as a whole team the entire season. Joe Gibbs has double that at 12. So when it comes to qualifying, expect Joe Gibbs to be in those top 5 slots. Not saying they're going to get the pole, because it's really just who can get it, because Kyle Larson is also someone that has won a pole, and William Byron, I believe, have had poles at Phoenix as well. So you just gotta look and see that. But Joe Gibbs is just proving more and more and more that they are getting faster, and that is something Hendrick really has to worry about going into this race. Looking at all season wins, Hendrick Motorsports has 8 wins on the season, while Joe Gibbs has, again, almost double that at 13 wins this season. Again, another stat proving that Joe Gibbs is fast. But then you look at these other stats. Top 10 finishes by Hendrick Motorsports this season. Hendrick is sitting at 71, while Joe Gibbs is right behind them at 68%. So when it comes to top 10 finishes, Hendrick's now proving that they're the faster team. So you guys see where this back and forth action is really coming from the two teams. And then you look at laps led. This is still a crazy number. Hendrick Motorsports led 2,973 laps the entire season. How much did Joe Gibbs lead? Well, they were right behind them. Again, Hendrick does have a pretty big gap between laps led. Joe Gibbs Racing is sitting at 2,283 laps led. So again, there's Hendrick also proving that they are a faster team. But You look at the wins, Joe Gibbs is up there. You look at the poles, Joe Gibbs is up there. How do you win a pole? You be the fastest in qualifying. So there's still, like, you see all this back and forth of who's faster happening. That's why I'm kind of going to be on my tiptoes watching the race this weekend, because it's literally going up to the race, it's been all back and forth. Is it going to be like this at Phoenix? 100%. Then you look at the last stat that they posted, stage wins. Hendrick Motorsports has 21 stage wins, while Joe Gibbs Racing has 16 stage wins. So not only is Hendrick here proving that they're faster, they're also proving that they are more consistent in the race. But Joe Gibbs, on the other hand, also a pretty consistent team. But, I mean, you look at the stats on this graphic, and it's all back and forth. So going into this weekend, just looking at all this back and forth action happening between them, it's really up in the air who's really going to win this weekend. And looking back here on my notes, Hendrick Motorsports, I believe they have been a really dominant team all season. They've been up there. They're there. They're right there. But how these Joe Gibbs cars have just been performing, and how the other two cars who aren't in the playoffs have been performing, I don't think they can pull their weight against Joe Gibbs. And I am saying that as not only someone that is NASCAR, but as someone who is a fan of Hendrick Motorsports. I am a fan of Hendrick Motorsports. I have so much Hendrick Motorsports gear, but the way that Joe Gibbs has been seen performing, I just don't think Hendrick is going to get it done at the Speedway. It looks like my dad asked a question. What team is better at Phoenix? Now, this is a very broad question, because I feel like both teams are really well at Phoenix. But looking at this season alone, it's Joe Gibbs all the way. They dominated at Phoenix this year. They were first and second. Christopher Bell won at Phoenix, and right behind him was the 11 car of Denny Hamlin. Now, we did mention that Christopher Bell is not in the championship for this year, but if he is a driver that can stay consistent and stay behind the two playoff drivers, he is someone that is not going to make it easy for those Hendrick cars to get around them. I think Christopher Bell is just going to get up there. He's going to stay with that pack, and he's going to stay with Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe. But when it comes to him playing defense with the other two Hendrick drivers, he's not going to make it easy, and he's going to make it really untouchable. I think Christopher Bell is just, I don't even know how to put this in words. Christopher Bell is that driver that, yes, he's not in the playoffs, but my goodness, when he plays defense, there's nobody getting by him. He's very much like Logano in this situation. There's absolutely nobody getting by him. So I think going into Phoenix this year, Joe Gibbs is going to make it really hard, and they are the better team going into Phoenix. And looking back at Hendrick Motorsports, both teams have 4 cars. Let's put that out there. Both teams have 4 cars. We haven't really seen much of the 48 and Alex Bowman for Hendrick Motorsports. So that's one less car that Hendrick really has to help play defense. The only driver I could really see staying with the pack is Chase Elliott for Hendrick Motorsports. And like Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott does have pretty solid defense. Would I say his defense on the track is the same as Christopher Bell? Absolutely not. I think Christopher Bell, when he gets into that defensive hat mode, there's nobody getting by him. Chase Elliott can get in that mode at times, but other times he gets really rusty. I feel like playing defense on the track with Chase Elliott, he gets anxious at times, and it shows because he starts getting loose. He starts kind of scrambling and going around. It's just a big toss-up of what's really going to happen. And another thing is that for both teams, for Hendrick, of course, I can't really see Larson and Byron helping each other because, yes, they're teammates, but when you get to that race, it's a one-man band for all drivers. Even though all 4 of them are teammates, well, not all 4 of them, but like 2 of these guys are teammates and these 2 guys are teammates. They're not going to be teammates going into this. They might be teammates if they're helping each other get to the front, but once they get to the front, they are no longer teammates. They are going to be a one-man band. They are going to be fighting for themselves, and it's yes, when it comes to Hendrick Motorsports, I don't want to say they don't have a chance against Joe Gibbs, but if I were them, I would be really terrified going into this race because that Joe Gibbs crew is not going to make it easy at all. And with Joe Gibbs Racing, I feel like they are really the pick to win the championship. Whether it is the 19 or whether it is the 11, it's going to be one of those two. And of course, I want Denny. I personally want Denny Hamlin. I've been saying it all season. I've been saying it all playoff run. I think this is the year Denny Hamlin finally gets his championship. And it's going to be a crazy race regardless. But like I mentioned, Joe Gibbs has just been proving, especially in the playoffs where everything is pressurized, that they are the drivers to win at Phoenix. I wouldn't even be mad if Chase Briscoe wins. I mean, I'll be mad if Denny Hamlin doesn't win because that was my pick and I was really hoping for him to win this year. But if Chase Briscoe pulls out in that 19 car and wins, unbelievable, phenomenal season that they are going to have. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about at the 2.5 minute mark before we have to say goodnight here. It is time for T-Bone to make her predictions for the race this weekend. This is very hard to make because I feel like both teams are going into this race. It's not going to be a very pretty race. There's going to be a lot of crashing and burning. There's going to be a lot of arguments. There's going to be a lot of back and forth between the two teams. My prediction is still Denny Hamlin is going to come out on top, but it's not going to be easy for him at all. It's going to be Denny Hamlin 100%. I think it's Denny Hamlin's year. I don't know if you guys know this. A lot of my family and close friends know this, though. When I get a gut feeling when it comes to sports, most of the time, I am correct. And I'm not saying that to show off that I have a really good intuition or anything like that, because there are a lot of situations where I get an intuition and I'm completely wrong. But when it comes to sports, and especially NASCAR, whenever I get an intuition that something's going to happen, it happens. And my intuition right now is telling me that it's Denny Hamlin's year. And he's been locked in all season, and it's showing. He's showing in his podcast. He's showing on his social media. He's showing on the track that he is nothing but hungry for that trophy. Like we mentioned earlier, Denny already has everything. He just hit 60 career wins. He is tied for 10th in all-time wins with NASCAR. Getting that one championship is going to put him in 9th in front of Kevin Harvick, who is a very successful driver. Don't get me wrong. I do miss Kevin Harvick all the time. But it's Denny Hamlin's year. He has those 60 wins. He has those Daytona 500 wins. He has those all-star race wins. He has driver or most popular driver. He has all those. But the one thing he needs is a championship. And I feel like this year it is his year to do it. But Chase Briscoe is not going to make it easy for Denny Hamlin. He is just as hungry, if not maybe a little bit hungrier than Denny Hamlin for that championship. Because like I said, he took over the 19 car, which belonged to Martin Truex, who had a phenomenal career before Chase Briscoe stepped in. And there, again, like I said, there were a lot of fans that were like, who's this Chase Briscoe guy? Why is he, why is he here? Why is he doing all this? Why is he, what is he going to do to really stay on top of the 19 car? Well, Chase Briscoe really pulled his weight this year, because those of you who tuned in late, I said that Chase Briscoe wasn't even going to get through the round of 16. And like I mentioned earlier, Chase Briscoe gave me the biggest slap in the face, because he is now in the championship four, and he is one of the top picks to win the championship. So I feel regardless of what happens this weekend, it's going to be a Joe Gibbs car. No questions asked, no nothing. It's one of the two Joe Gibbs cars, because they are just so strong. Hendrick Motorsports is a really strong team too, but I think it's just going to be a Joe Gibbs showdown at Phoenix. It is going to be a lot of back and forth, though. You are going to see this. I bet Hendrick cars are going to lead out a couple times, but when it gets to that stage 3 and when it gets to, I'd say, about 50 laps left, it's all going to be Joe Gibbs, 100%. It's going to be Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin, and Christopher Bell at the front, and maybe Ty Gibbs will sneak his way in there, and they're going to play a lot of defense with each other. And Hendrick is just not going to be able to get past that because Hendrick does have Larson and Byron, who are both very consistent and stay in the top 10. But when they're going against a defense like Joe Gibbs, no chance. And especially with them, Chase Elliott hasn't been running the best either. So there's one car. And then Alex Bowman, don't really know where he is. He's probably not going to run well at Phoenix either because he hasn't ran very well at Phoenix in the past couple years. Hendrick is basically just going to sink in water. And I feel like Larson's just going to get too competitive, which is correct. I mean, Larson is shown to be very competitive. I mean, he already has a championship under his name. But he's not going to do that with the type of drivers Joe Gibbs have been showing they are this year. So once again, Joe Gibbs is going to be on top. And real quick, before we wrap things up, this was something that was brought up on Denny Hamlin's podcast. Joe Gibbs does not have to worry about a Penske car being in the championship. NASCAR fans, Christmas came early. No Penske cars in the championship four, but it's, again, two of the strongest teams in NASCAR, not including Penske, because Penske is another very strong team in NASCAR right now. But it is a Joe Gibbs year. I am saying it. It's a Joe Gibbs year. It's going to be either the 11 or the 19. Who I want to come out on top is the 11. That's who I've been saying all season. That's who I've been saying since the playoffs even started. It's the 11's year. But realistically, it could also be the 19's year. So, no matter what happens, it is going to be a Joe Gibbs championship year, whether it's the 11 or the 19. That, ladies and gentlemen, was your